Thank you all for joining us. I know some of you guys are a little bit out of your time cycle, so we do appreciate it. So Jennifer's going to restart her computer, and while she's restarting her computer, let's talk about how we're going to handle the questions. So please do add your questions to the chat. We are going to be doing a combination of answering them while they're in the chat and reviewing them again while toward the end of the presentation. We want to make sure all the questions are answered. We want to make sure we get the questions that are answered on video as well. So sometimes the information on the chat will not be shown on the video. So we want to make sure that we get as much information as possible. For those of you who are familiar with what's going on, we typically post these videos up on RMS website. On the main page, you'll be able to scroll down and see where the webinar videos are. They're on the YouTube channel. With that being said, the video for the last OCONUS beginners training is already posted. There may be some differences between the two of them, so it's not unfeasible that you watch them both and learn something.
Hey, Benita, can I ask a question of everybody on the phone? So since we have an OCONUS gathering here, I just want to ask a couple of questions, and y'all are welcome to respond in the chat if that's easier for y'all. But we, the PMO, as well as Benita's team, but here at the PMO, we do send out emails occasionally to try to capture all of the users. But sometimes it's notifications about upcoming training. Sometimes it's notifications about outages. And then also I do send out a newsletter. I try to send it out at least once a quarter with some of the updates and most frequently asked questions and things. Are y'all receiving those emails? I just want to know if we are capturing OCONUS in our emails when we send them out from the PMO. Are y'all receiving any emails from myself or from the PMO inbox email address? Yes. Okay, good. Okay, great. All right. And again, if y'all have folks in your office that are not receiving any of the notifications, whether it be from us or from the RMS Center, and they would like to, please let me know. We definitely want to make sure we're capturing as many folks as we can. And I know we have a distribution list that we now use, of course, from the RMS Center, but from the PMO standpoint, if you're not getting anything from us, then please let me know if you want to receive it. And again, if anybody in your office isn't and they want to, please have them contact us and we'll make sure we add them to the distribution, even if I have to manually add them to a list. Okay. All right. Thanks. Go ahead, Benita.
Thank you. I'll say one more thing and then we'll do my test again with Jennifer. So this training for OCONUS beginning is very, very close, if not almost identical to the CONUS beginning. However, every quarter's training will not be the same. They will reflect system changes, system updates, and topics requested. Because we have to plan ahead, the sooner you give us any interested topics for the PMO to vet and to comb through for us, the better. So please don't hesitate to submit suggestions for training as well. And Jennifer, mic check.
If she has to, there's the dial-in for this as well, if she needs to just dial in for audio.
That's a very good idea. She's doing the dial-in. Thank you.
No problem. Like I said, my computer's been acting squirrely for a while. It's taken me a good 20 to 30 minutes to get it booted up and the WebEx working. I actually started the WebEx to begin with on my cell phone and then switched it over to the computer when it was finally working. So I know it's been crazy.
Yeah, I do apologize. I'm not sure what's going on with my computer. It doesn't like me today. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and go through all of this information. Thank you guys for bearing with us while we try and figure out what's going on. Hold on. Sorry, I got to mute myself on the computer. Here's my mouse.
I see the request to add you to the distro list. Gotcha. Go ahead, Jen.
All right, so for the training, the goal of this training session is to cover how RMS works with its basic functions. We are not going to talk about any of the business practices, policies, regulations that govern contract administration or quality assurance actions. If you have any questions regarding that kind of information, you will need to contact your district's policy to determine how to handle those things. We're just going to tell you how you can use RMS. And
Jen, I'm sorry, I think I muted you.
yeah, it told me that. I'll
Sorry.
just try and remember. It's okay. All right, so the basic topics that we're going to discuss for this training is the general navigation inside of RMS, the administration tab, the submittals and transmittals, the quality control, and progress payments. Now, at the end of each of the topics, I'll open it up for 5 minutes for questions. So we're going to go through these really fast. There's a lot of really good information on all of the slides that are going to be in here. However, I'm not going to read that information. I'm just going to give you the basics about what's going on through that one. And then later, when you have time, you can go back and read the information that I did not go over in the training. Now, we have provided links to those slides on our website at rms.usace.army.mil. And you'll be able to download these and view these at any time if you want to review them just to go over all of that stuff. So let's go ahead and go to the next screen. So basic navigation, these are the things that we're going to be talking about for the navigation, and we'll talk about that as we go through. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the launcher. The launcher is one of the biggest parts of RMS that checks if there are any updates that are going on for the system, so that way you have the most current version of RMS that's running and you're not running in backwards. Now, helpful links for installing information are provided in the slides right here. You can go ahead and click on those and watch those at your leisure. Now, there are some common errors that happen with the launcher for whatever reason. When you open up the launcher and you can't actually see RMS, but you do see RMS showing up down there, it's not showing because of how Windows handles certain things. You can watch this link to a video which will show you how to fix that issue. Anytime you see something where you try to log into RMS, you say, disconnected, your computer cannot connect to the following resources. We have 2 possible fixes for that one that are showing up in here. Feel free to check those ones out and figure out what's going on with your issue. If none of that works, then you can contact the help desk and we'll be more than happy to help you out with that one. The login screen. So there's some very good information on the login screen when you get to the login screen. The first is the link to our website as well as the RMS Support Center. This will allow you to submit tickets, find the help desk phone number, any of that kind of stuff. It can be found from here. Another thing that you'll want to know, if you're logging in with a CAC and your CAC is not showing up because you had this screen open before you inserted your CAC, I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but it's possible. You'll just click on this refresh button if it doesn't show up. Very important information that shows up over here. If you try connecting and it says disconnected and you're pretty sure you're on the right system, you can come down here and take a look and see what version you're running. And that will allow you to make sure that you're running the same versions that are updated by checking the release notes on our website. And as long as those numbers match, then you should be good to go. Then you click on the server connections buttons to run a test to make sure everything's running like it should. Now, down at the bottom, you'll see a list of the 4 most recent maintenance scheduled for RMS during those times. Be aware that RMS may be down or slow or just not functioning at that time because it is a maintenance weekend and it could be they're working on it. We don't have specific times, just know that during the weekend it starts and it finishes during the whole weekend, so be aware of that. Once you get logged in, the first screen that you're going to see is this map view over here. And this is where you're going to access your various different districts. Depending on how you log in, well, which districts you have access to will depend on which of these you actually click on. So if you want to have access to, let's see here, we're going to choose Europe. Europe is way up here. You would click up here on Europe and open that up. Once you've opened it once, it will show over here in this recently viewed area. Also, another way to find stuff is to do it through the divisions, which are listed here. You will click on the division, and when you click on the division down here at the bottom, it will show all of these divisions that are shown up with that. Now, it looks like there's a question in the chat. Let me see what that question was. How long does a new update patch take to download? It shouldn't take more than 15 minutes. If it's taking more than 15 minutes to download a new patch, you need to close your launcher and try again. And if it continues to do that, contact the help desk support and we'll assist you with getting that together. Okay, so moving on to the next screen. All right, so this is just talking about if you have an issue trying to log into the district. So you've been assigned a district, you go to click on it, and you get this login to whatever district it was, failed. In this case, you need to contact the district administrator, make sure your staff record is set up correctly in order for you to access that. All right, so here's the navigation. Once you've logged into the district or the contract, you will see these buttons up here. Now, these three are always there. The help button will give you the information for the help desk information. The refresh is for if there's any data that has been submitted to by some other user inside of RMS. You'll notice that these circle buttons will start moving. If you see these circle buttons moving on the refresh button, you're going to want to click on that just to refresh that view. It may not show any changes on the view that you're in, but know that there is stuff in the background that is being updated when those buttons are circling. There is no save button in RMS. There is just a back button. So anytime you want to save any of your data, make sure you click on this back button in order to save your data. These three navigation buttons are just for your ease of use. They will make for faster navigation. The contract menu will show you the main view of the contract. Contract selection will go to the main view of the district, and government mode home will go all the way back to the map. Over here, you'll see the topic, the title of your contract, as well as your contract ID. This is the number that you will provide to the RMS Support Help Center anytime you contact us. And your contract number and delivery order number will show up here. Okay. Once you log into RMS and get into the district, this is the screen that you will see in the first time you go in. Now, if you don't have any favorites set up, there won't be anything in this section. And if you haven't accessed any of the contracts, there won't be anything in this section either. But these two sections allow for quick access to contracts. This one for contracts that you've marked as favorite, which we'll talk about later, and this one for access to contracts that you've accessed recently in the last couple of times. Now, it's very important that you pay attention to the information that's down here at the bottom in case you have to do something and you don't see the ability to do that. So say you want to add a contract and you don't have the add button. Check your display options down here because this is for display projects. All you see is edit. But for display contracts, you will see edit, add, and archive. And that's the common error that I just talked about. So we're going to skip that. Now, in the district, you will see across the top, there are a bunch of tabs that could be useful for you depending on what it is that you need to do. We will not discuss most of these tabs as that's advanced training, and that will not be in this particular training. But what is important is this right here. This is your sorting features. This allows you to view the data that's down in the data grid in a different way. So say you want to view all future contracts. You'll come over here to where it says future contracts and you'll click on this. When you click on this, it will update the title that's hiding behind my little text box right here, showing that it's future contracts and whatever office you have chosen. Now, to change the office that's being viewed, there is a button right here, this ellipses button. You will click on that to bring up the office lookup view and pick the office that you want. Now, again, the office that you are looking at will display right here. So pay attention to what's in this title here when you go to search for a contract and you cannot find it, but you know that contract is there because more than likely it's the sorting and the viewing that is not set up, so you're not being able to find that information. All right, so for adding on to a favorite, you'll first double click on the particular contract that you want to add as to a favorite, and then go into the upper right-hand corner underneath the help button and find this button that says mark as favorite. You're gonna check that button. Here's a bigger blow-up view of that button right there. And then click the back button to save your changes, and you will see that it shows up right here in the favorite box. All right, so for sorting and grouping in the data grid, there are data grids all throughout RMS that will show a list of various different bits of information, and there are different ways that you can view this to make looking at that information easier. One of them is by using the grouping and sorting. So in this case, we're supposed to be talking about sorting. So if you want to sort all of the information on this column alphabetically, A, B, and C, you'll just click a single time on this column header, and that will sort it ascending. Click on it a second time to sort it descending, and click on it a third time to remove the sorts that were in there in the first place. Next, we have the option of filtering and only seeing specific sets of data. You will notice that by the column headings on the right-hand side, there are these little funnel icons. When you click on the funnel icons, you have the options of selecting a specific entry. Now, only thing that's going to show in here is what's already in the column. Or you can sort by various different equations, and then you can click on filter. Once you've picked your selections, you can click on the X button to close it. And when you want to go back and view everything again, you click on the filter and you choose clear filter. Let's see here. The next most important thing, and which I find the most useful, is the search box. The search box is available anywhere you have a data grid, and it will help you limit the number of views that you have in the list, so that way you're not looking at, I don't know, 500, 20, 30. So it limits it down to maybe 2 or 3, which is much easier to find information. All right. Another thing that you've got with data grids is the ability to export that data grid to either an Excel file or a PDF report. If you want to edit anything for it, I would choose the Excel file. And everything that you see in the data grid is going to show up in your exported file. Another way to view these things differently is through grouping. Now, by default, RMS doesn't group most views. The only ones that can have grouping by default are contract file and contract reports and summary reports. Everything else will show up as this view shows right here. To get the grouping view, you're going to click and hold the title of the column and drag it up to this gray bar that's right here and then let go. And it will change the view so that way it's showing it by groups. Now, once you click the back button and exit out and then go back in, what changes you put in there will no longer be set. So you'll have to reset those every single time. Okay. Once you've logged into RMS, one of the first things that you will see are the contract action items. Now, this is in the contract menu. Anytime you see the button that said contract menu, it will take you back to this view. And these action items will show up here. Now, there are 3 colors associated with the action items. The first one is green, indicating that there are no outstanding action items that are overdue. The second one is orange, indicating that there are medium-level action items that are overdue. And the third one is red, indicating that there are high action items that are overdue. You will see that there is a government action item box, a contractor action item box, and a my action item box. Now, most of the government ones are what you're going to be most interested in, but you could also be interested in the contractor one because you need to make sure that the contractor is doing what they're supposed to be doing. These ones will only show up if you've been set to be the person responsible for a particular action, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. This is a closer view, basically just talking about what I said. The only difference is this up here at the top is what the contractor sees. They can only see for their dashboard, they only see their stuff and their my activities. They won't see the government one. Now, if you want to see all of the action items that are associated and that you can associate with this contract, you can click on any one of these 3 boxes, or you can open up the action item control menu in order to view this one. So this is where you go. This is the action items control, and it can be opened up, as I said, just a few seconds ago, sorry. And what you will see is there's a list of all of the action items that are available for this particular contract. You've got some sort buttons up, or sort tiles up here. If you click on any of these tiles, it will limit what's in this view to just what's associated with that tile. And when you want to go back to seeing all of them, you can go back to choosing the all sort tile for whichever action item you're talking about. When you want to use an action item, you single click on the action item, and then you come down here to this bottom box and you check the radio box for enable to set that as enabled. If it's been assigned to a user, then the user's name will show up down here. Now, this is where those My Action items come into view. If you are the logged in user and you have been assigned to this particular action item and it happens to be overdue, it will show up on your side. Now, to set a user to that, you're going to click on this lookup field to go through and look for the user's name and set it that way. Document packages. There's a lot of information in here, and I'm going to talk about most of it in the next couple of slides, but I'm going to skip this slide for now. When you go into the document packages, you've got a couple of options if there are no document packages already in there. You've got Add, Edit, and Delete. I don't really use the Edit button because I prefer to double click on everything to open it up instead of single clicking and then clicking over here. So let's go ahead and do this. Now, document packages are everywhere in RMS. There are two types of document packages that you're going to see: contractor document package and government document packages. Contractor document package or shared document packages are for documents that are shared between government and contractor. Government document packages only for the government. The contractor cannot see anything you put in a government government document package. So make sure if it's a document that needs to go to the contractor, you put it in the shared or contractor document package. Now, this is what a document package will look like. Now, this document package was originating from the contractor and sent to the government. You have the option to add, edit, or delete documents showing up in this part right here, and I'm going to show you how to add the documents in just a second. You have the ability to generate letters, sign the documents, export the documents, view the documents, and if you need to, update the document title. However, thing to note, if you are going to update the document title, do not change the prefix. The prefix is used for making it easier to find and also send to PCF. So we want to make sure that that prefix stays the same, though you can change the ending of that particular title. You can also add a description to the documents, or you can add any notes. And if the contractor added some notes, their notes will show up down here. If there's too much information to see in this box, you can click this icon over here that looks like a book with a pen on it to make a bigger view, so that way you can see all of the information if it doesn't fit in this little box as you've got it. Once you have all of the information, oh, I forgot, tiles up at the top. So these are the sorting tiles up at the top that show you how many documents are associated or added to this document package and what type of documents are added into the package. A note about signing the documents: only the Word documents and PDF documents can be signed in RMS. All right, moving on to adding documents. There are a couple of different ways to add the documents. You can use this Add button over here and pull it from that direction, or you can drag and drop either into this square or down into this data grid from your file. So you grab your file and you drag it in here, it will plop it into the document package. Okay, so you can use the edit button again, but I usually don't. I double click on the document if I want to open it to view it. Now, if you don't want to actually view the document, but you want to sign it, make sure you just single click on it, because if you double click on it, it will open it up to view. Any changes that you make in here, you're going to use the back button to save those changes. Let's see here. All right, deleting attachments. So as long as the document package has not been accepted by the government yet, you still have the ability to delete documents that are in the document package for whatever reason. If you need to delete a document out of the document package, you're going to single click on the document that needs to be deleted. You're going to click this delete button, and then RMS is going to ask you, are you sure? Yeah. So just make sure that yes, you are sure, or no, you're not sure, and then you'll go through and do that. Now, one of the things to pay attention to, if something is already signed electronically by the contractor, you may not want to delete that document package. So be careful that you pay attention to that information before you delete anything that's added in here. Two notes to know about document packages. Once the contractor has submitted the document package to the government for review, they can no longer make any changes to that document package. They can't add anything. They can't delete anything. All they can do is look at it. So if you want them to make changes to that particular document package, there's a button that I will show you in just a little bit that says return for corrections. You're going to click on that so that way the contractor can come back and add information to that particular document package. Another thing to note about the document package is if you want the documents to go to PCF, you must click on the Accept Document Package button in order for that information to be sent to PCF. Now, we've kind of talked about this just a little bit, at least for the top part, but now we're going to talk about signing the documents. If it doesn't offer you to sign a document in any other way, then you can sign documents electronically in RMS by selecting the document and clicking on this Sign Selected Documents button. Once that happens, it will bring up a list of options of which documents to sign. Now, you can sign more than one document at a time, but know that you can only choose one digital signature position when signing those documents. So if they have to be signed on a different location, you cannot pick them together. Now, when a document has been added to a document package, it automatically goes to the contract file module, which we'll talk about later. And once it's deleted, if it's deleted in contract file or if it's deleted in document packages, it's deleted from RMS entirely. So be careful when you delete things either from the document packages or the contract file module. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this particular section. I'm going to open it up for questions for about 5 minutes. And if there are, go ahead.
We did have a question. Someone asked if their action items are showing 0, do they have to do something special for the feature to work for the dashboard for the action items?
They would have to set that up in the action items for that to be one of the items that needs to be displayed, although that one, we would have to look in specifically to that one. But usually once you set it up, once you enable it inside of RMS, you shouldn't have any colors if it's showing up as 0. All of the action items show 0 for me, and I do need to do something for this feature to work.
You got it to work. Thank you for following up on that.
Yeah, and if that doesn't answer the question, go ahead and submit a support ticket, or if you give me your email, I can get a ticket started for you as soon as we're finished with this, and we'll look into what's going on with your specific contract. Oh, I see it down there. Got it to work. Yeah, okay. Any other questions?
All right, let's go.
All right. Okay, next section. Admin tab. This is a list of some of the things that we're going to be talking about on the admin tab. I'm not going to focus on that because, yeah, we'll talk about it in a second. Once you log into a contract, this is what you're going to see, and we're specifically going to be talking about the administration tab and all of these, well, most of the modules that are down here. And I'm just going to give you a brief description of all of them, not too specific in the detail. This is a little bit more information on the administration tab that we're going to be talking about. I'm not going to review that one, and this is a list of all of the modules that we are going to be discussing. The first module that you're going to come to is the contract description. This is where you're going to enter the contract number and the delivery order number that you pull from CEFMS. And one thing to note, that you must make sure that what's in CEFMS is showing up in here exactly as it shows up in CEFMS. So if CEFMS has a space, this needs to have a space. And that goes, the contract number goes here, the delivery order number goes right here. And you'll just need to make sure that those match exactly what's in CEFMS. Otherwise, you may run into some problems. Now, how you fill out all of this information is dependent upon your district's policy. Note that if you need to change the office, you can do that by this button right here, and then you can update all of this information based on your district's policy as well. The next one is the contract status. Now, this module will give you a brief overview of the status of the contract without going through all of the individual locations to see, okay, where's this, where's this, where's this. It will show you the status photo, which should be updated on a monthly basis. It will show you the progress, which is mostly updated by progress payments, but can be manually updated by users. And it will show you the phase status issues that are going on with the contract as the contract progresses. Now, this phase status should be updated on a monthly basis, just like this contract status photo. And how often you update and what you update with is going to be based on your district policy. But the other thing that you can take a look at is you'll see a list of all of the other pictures or other photos that you've uploaded for statuses, and you can view those. You can save them to your file, or you can add a new one as it's going through. Another thing that you will see on the phase tab is the cost time growth as the contract goes through and changes as it's going in. And this is just talking about what I just said. And when you go to the phase tab, this is what the phase tab is going to look like. And this top part is the information that you put in. Anything that comes in these two is going to be from P2, so you don't necessarily have to enter this one in, but it would be a good idea to do so. And then, of course, you have the cost time growth showing up down here. Now, most of this stuff is pulled between progress payments, placement, and milestones. But that's not going to be part of this training, so this is just a brief overview. All right, contract personnel. So when you want to know who has access to the contract, you can come into contract personnel, and everybody who has access will show up here with their contract roles associated. If you have a project delivery team, that will show up on here, and you can add, edit, or delete those members by these buttons right up here. And of course, you see you still have the filter options as well, so if you want to filter that one. When you're adding a member, you clicked on the add button. There's the add button right there. This is the second type of add button that we've got, and this is a miniature version of it. So this add button will bring up the edit view here, and you will choose the user's, the person's name who is going to be part of this and what their title is going to be. And once it is done, it will show up down here, and you'll click the back button to save your changes. Remember, back is your save button. If you want to edit that member, you can just double click on the person that you're looking for. It'll bring you to the same edit view. And then when you're done, you click on the back button, it comes over here, and then you click the back button to save any changes after that. If you decide you need to delete them for whatever reason, single click on the user, click on the X button that shows up over here. Here's somewhat blown up view right here. And of course, RMS is going to ask, are you sure? And the answer is either yes or no. You have to decide. And then once you're finished, of course, click on the back button to save your changes. Contract documents. For the most part, this section is not going to be used for any new contracts. Well, not for the most part. For any new contracts, this is not going to be used. This is only used if your contract started a long time ago in 2.38. And this is where all of the legacy documents from 2.38 can be found in one area. But in RMS 3.0, everything is showing up in the contract file. And here's some information for you. You can go ahead and review that at your leisure. I'm going to skip that for now. This is what the contract file is going to look like. Now, the contract file is one of the few places where the default data grid view is going to be under grouping. Now, this one is specifically grouped by the folder and the subfolder, meaning the folder for each of the tabs in various places in RMS that have document packages. And then within those tabs, there are some other information for various different types based off of the originating one. One thing that you'll want to know about in here is in order to view all of the stuff, you want to click on these arrow buttons to quote unquote expand it, or you have the option to expand all or collapse all by using these buttons over here. And again, you can also export too. Your next favorite friend is your search bar. Make your life easier. If you know what you're looking for specifically, use the search bar to start typing in whatever it is that you're looking. And then once it narrows down this list, you can expand whichever box it shows up in, and then expand the sub box to find the file that you're specifically looking for. Now, once you have added a document or you want to edit the document to the contract file because you can't do it for whatever reason in the document package, you can come over here and do it this way. Now, this is talking about manually adding. There are a couple of reasons why you would manually add, but for the most part, you should probably be adding most of the documents in a document package. This is just in case something happens. So you have the option of adding it here. And this gives you a list of all of the different things that you can do once you've added it. So after you click the Add button, you have the option of choosing one of these two buttons here, and that is to generate the letter using the macros that are with your district, or to select a document from your local file system by using this button here. Once the document has been added, you have the option to update the document title. Again, try not to change the prefix, only add the extra that you need in order to really identify the document. You can change the date that the document is for when the document is when it was created, and then you can add a brief description. You can also sign the document, edit the document if it's a Word document. If it's a PDF document and you have a PDF editor, then you can also edit that as well. Or you can view the document or save the document. And then I can't read that one. Oh, or you can delete it. Remove document is this one right here. Once everything is completed in this particular file and you're ready for this document to go to PCF, your first step is to click on this completed button. And then once that's done, you will have the option to send to PCF. Now, when you want to edit a document that is in either a document package or found in the contract file, when you open it up in the contract file, this is the view that you've got. And again, edit, delete, or view are your options. Of course, you've got save again. But again, editing, you can only edit certain types of documents. If the document has been signed, you will not be able to edit that. So keep that in mind. If you're trying to edit something and the button is grayed out, it's probably because it's already been signed in the document package. All you can do is view it at that point. All right, moving on to contract setup. Let's take a quick break real fast. Keep my tongue from sticking to the roof of my mouth. All right. In contract setup, there are a couple of tabs that run across the top. Oh, we did not update this. This tab is no longer there. I promise you it's not there, but we haven't updated these slides yet. I do apologize for that. We'll make sure that gets taken care of. But the ones that we're going to focus on are the first four. Dredging, you will only need to take a look at this one if your contract is set up to use dredging. If it's not, this will not show up. You will not need to look at this tab. It will show up. You just won't need to look at it. All right, the Administration Funding tab, this is where you're going to set up CEFMS, link it to P2, set up tracking of Contractor Insurance and Payrolls and all of that information. This is also where you can link it to 238. Now, for most people, you're not going to need to do this, especially in new contracts. Excuse me. One thing to keep in mind, there is this option to allow government to enter contractor data. Excuse me. Can you edit a document after you complete the package? No. Sorry, I'll come back to that in a minute. Allow government to enter contractor data. Use this checkbox sparingly and check with your district to ensure that you are allowed to use this checkbox if you must use this checkbox. But most of the time, don't use this checkbox because the contractor really should be entering their own information. The government should not have to enter that information for them. So this box is there in case you need it, but we would advise you strongly not to use it unless you have to. And this is, of course, where you can set up the funding, which we'll talk about in a different training. The next one is the Payment Modifications tab. This is basically where you can view what the CEFMS information for each obligation line item is going to show up right here. You can set who these people are going to be set to, and you can also make some changes for the progress payments on how you want things to get taken care of. For the QA and Quality Assurance tab, this part right here, this is how you can set what type of report you're going to use. Now, what you set here is also going to affect the QC reports as well, so keep that in mind. You can set this information as you need. If you need to have more than one QA shift, you can click on this drop down to get a couple of different options. And if you choose 2 or 3, they will show up based off of your selection here. This information is based off of what they think the adverse weather is. So if you know for a fact every year in May, it's going to rain for 10 days where so badly that you're not going to be able to do work, that's the information that you'll put in this area right here. All right, the Submittal Schedule tab. So this is where you will see, this is where you can add more than one register if your contract needs more than one register, or you can view the register that is, the details for the register in this particular instance. But the most important part for this one, I think, is down here at the schedule. This area right here allows you to set up the contract for either manually entering scheduled dates or entering information from an SDEF file. Now, if you have the option to enter information from an SDEF file, there's a checkbox that will show up down here, forcing the contractor to enter actual start and finish dates within the QC report. So even if the contractor has that information in the SDEF file, when they go to import it, it's not going to show up in RMS because you've checked the box that says you got to do it in your QC report. You can't get it from the SDEF file. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, for the review days for the different types, you can see that be set here. And then how long you have to resubmit, or the contractor has to resubmit, and then some of the other days. And you can set these based off of your district's policy. P2 projects. If your contract is linked to a P2 project, then that information will be in here. Or if you need to link your contract to a P2 project, this is the area that you would do that in. You would use the add button to find the P2 project in question, and then once it's been linked, all of the information will show up in these three tabs right here. So briefly, this is what each tab looks like, and this is going to give you a brief description of what shows up in those tabs. Correspondence. Okay. So for correspondence, there's quite a lot of things that you need to talk about in correspondence, with talking about sending information to and from the contractor, letters, things like that. And all of the numbers are designated with specific letters to denote where they come from. H is coming from the home site, S is coming from the site office. Both of these are contractor initiated letters. And then for government letters, it's a C. Now, you can take a look at all of the quick views that you've got. These are all sort views, these blue boxes right here. If you want to look at all of the sent ones that require approval, you can click on this blue box and it will show only the ones that require approval down here at the bottom. If you need to add a letter, you can click on add. This is the information that will pop up when you do an add. Now, one thing to note, these three that are highlighted in yellow right here, these ones will only show up if the allow government to enter contractor data has been checked under contract setup. If you don't have that set, this will not show up. You'll only see these top three and then this bottom one down at the bottom. When you go to add a letter, the first thing that's going to pop up after you choose letter to contractor is one, the letter designation is going to show up. You cannot change that one. And then the number. Now, by default, our RMS will increment these numbers accordingly. But one thing to note, if there is an S13 and there are no C letters, or maybe there's only 5 C letters, then the C is going to be C6 because you only have 5 other letters. So just keep that in mind. These numbers for the numbers are not necessarily going to match what the contractor has sent you. Once you've decided that that's the number you want, click OK. Now, once you get in there, this is what it looks like. And if you need it to have an answer, then you need to check this box. If it's not resolved, then you check this box. If the letter summary will show up in here, these buttons will allow you to link answers to various different correspondence. So if this letter is answering another letter by the contractor, then you're going to use this box to find that letter and put it in here. Or if you need an answer to this one and there's already an existing answer, you can click on this one to get the answering letter to show up and link it in here. Otherwise, if you need a letter to answer this, you can click on this one. Now, for the document packages for this one, once you've got all of this information, you need to add the letter itself to the document package. So you're going to either double click on the document package or single click and hit edit to go into the document package. And as we've done before, you're going to add the document. So I'm not going to go over this one because we've already talked about this. None of this is was that different? Nope. Okay, so once you have finished uploading everything into the document package, you're going to click on this complete package button that shows up. Now, this button only shows up for a document package that was created by the government. Otherwise, if it was created by the contractor and then sent to the government, you would have two buttons, accept and then return for corrections. So for government-generated document packages, to send the documents to PCF, you click on this complete package button. All right, so once you've got everything taken care of, you've got all of the letters added to the document package, you've attached all of the letters answering or are answered by down here, you've set in all of the dates and everything is good to go, then you can update the status. The status, there are a couple of options. Draft letter, not complete, that's when you first start. Draft letter is complete but still needs to be approved. Letter has been approved but hasn't been sent. And then the final one, letter sent. And you'll click on letter sent, you'll choose yes, and then this will no longer be able to be edited at that point. But you will see that the number increments in the appropriate checkbox. Now, when you receive a letter from the contractor, basically you'll double click on the letter and it will show this view right here, which is about the same. The only difference is the letter that's showing up. And if you already have an answer, then you can go ahead and click on this button right here. And we've talked about this. Pretty much this is all exactly the same as what we did before. The only difference is you're answering something from the contractor instead of creating something to send to the contractor. So this is where it's talking about generating a letter. So in the document packages, I told you before, you have the option of generating a letter. Now, when you click on this generate letter, you will get the word template selection lookup box that will show up, and you'll go through and pick whichever letter happens to fit what you need and then fill out the information that it asks for in order to get that letter in there and click OK when you're done. All right, next thing we're going to be talking about is RFIs. This is a special type of correspondence that we separate out of regular correspondence. So if the contractor wants information and they want to know how to do something or whatever, it's probably going to go in an RFI. But check with your district's policy whether to use the RFI or the correspondence for your communication. Currently, we have there are two tabs inside of the RFIs. Now, this view that you're seeing right here, this is after you've already opened up, and this is the edit view of the RFI itself. So either you've added the RFI or you've edited the RFI. Now, by default, the first view is going to be the Contractors tab. Once they have finished and submitted, you'll be able to view everything that's in here, including what's in the document package. Once you have gone through and reviewed everything, checked everything, if you notice anything is wrong, then you can come over to the government response and return it to the contractor if you need to. Or if the document package is missing something on the Contractors tab and it's in review, which it should be if you've got it. If it's not, if it shows up as not complete, that's because the contractor didn't check the box to submit to the government. So you need to have them do that first. But if you notice that something's missing, then you need to click on the box that says return for corrections to return the document package to make sure all of the appropriate documents are added to this document package. Now, you'll notice that when you go to the government response tab, there is a government document package that shows up. Remember, this is the government document package, so it cannot be seen by the contractor. So if you want to send something to the contractor for them to be able to see, make sure you add it to the document package that's on the contractor side. Okay, now, if everything's good on the contractor side, you're going to go through and you're going to fill out all of the information, add any documents that you need to add to your document package. And then once you're ready for the contractor to see your information, you need to check both of these boxes right here. If you don't have both of these boxes checked, then the contractor is not going to be able to see your response. And all they'll see is a blank screen where government is not finished. So make sure you check those boxes when you are done, so that way the contractor can view that information. Now, the government notes to the contractor will show up down here, and they can be entered in your section over here. All right. Contract user entries and special data. This is used with the generating letters. If you need to know what the phone, how to change the phone number for the contract or something like that, that happens in this particular module. Prime contractor. So this information is really important. The contractor can see all of this information, but they can only edit the bottom half of this section of RMS. The government must first go in and add the top section in order for the contractor to be able to enter all of the information down here. One thing to note, payee office. This information comes from CEFMS. So when you click on this lookup box here, if nothing shows up, then you will need to go to CEFMS to make sure that the information has properly been entered into CEFMS before it will show up in here. You'll also need to make sure that the contract is linked to CEFMS in order for that information to show up in here as well. Here, moving on. Yeah, this is what I want. So this is a blow-up view of what you need to actually enter, because this information can only be entered by the government. Now, I would not change the responsibility code because for a lot of other things, it's always set for prim. So just leave this one as it is. But you can update the full name. You can change the prime contractor. You can copy the DUNS information, or you can look up the DUNS information. And then you can also enter this North American Industry Classification System code. And if you don't know what that is, we have a link here in there for you to look that up. One thing to note, that there's this lovely little button here that says prevent contractor mode access. So say, for instance, the contract goes into litigation and you do not want the contractor to have access to the contract, but you don't want to take the prime contractor off here to lose all of the information below. You can click this box to prevent them from being able to log into the contract and still retain all of the information that shows up in the prime contractor. Contractor staff. This is very important. So after you've filled out the prime contractor tab, you go over to the contractor staff. Now, it's the government's responsibility to add the very first user to the contract by setting up an administrator for the contract. So to do that, you click on the add button, and then you add the email information into the box for the user that is going to be the administrator for the contract for the contractor. Now, it's important that you make sure this information is spelled correctly. There's nothing, everything matches what the contractor gave you. Otherwise, you will not be able to edit this. And if it doesn't match, the user will not be able to get into RMS. Well, they won't be able to get into the contract. So you would have to start again. After you have made sure that the email is correct, click OK, and then you can come in here, add the person's first name and last name, and make sure you check this has administrative rights checkbox, so that way they can actually go in there. Don't check this box as well, because if you check this one, then they still can't get in there, and we don't want that. All right, subcontractors. Most contracts are probably going to have some kind of subcontractor that's going to be associated with it, and this is where it's added inside of RMS. When you get into the subcontractors, it should be the responsibility of the contractor to enter this information, but just know that you can go in there and edit is too. You can add, edit, or delete subcontractors as need be. If your contract is if your contract is set up to use an SDEF file, then this information can be pulled from the SDEF file, but it is very important that the scheduling software uses the exact same responsibility codes that are already in RMS. If they don't, then you'll end up creating duplicates and you'll have all kinds of stuff that you'll have to deal with in order to fix that. So just make sure that the responsibility code is exactly the same and matches what's in RMS prior to importing an SDEF file. All right, subcontractor edit view. So when you want to edit the subcontractor, you'll double click on it to enter the information. And what you will notice is the most important part is, well, I think this one right here, payroll's ending day of week. So if payroll is required for this particular subcontractor, before entering the first day on site, it's very important that this day is picked correctly and verified that that's the right day. Because if you're halfway through and all of a sudden they decide, oh, we don't want to get paid on Saturday, we want to get paid on Sunday. You can change it, but you'll have some weird discrepancies going on and you don't want to do that. So it's a good idea to make sure this date is done and just leave it there until the contractor, the subcontractor is done. If you need insurance, so you check this box for this one, payroll require, and you can use these ones based off of your district's policy and fill out the information in here based off of the district's policy or have the contractor do it. Contractor insurance. So most of the time you're going to need to track insurance for most of the contractors, and to do that, you can do that in this particular module right here. Now, this information is added either with that checkbox in the subcontractor module or the prime contractor module for the prime. And then once it's showing up in here, then you'll be able to add the information accordingly. If you don't see it in here, and it should be in here, go back to either the subcontractor module or the prime contractor module and make sure the insurance required checkbox is checked. Now, to edit this information, so to add the dates and all of the documents, you're going to double click on it to open it up, and this is the view that you will see. So you use the date picker over here in order to enter the dates for the various different insurances, and you will use the document package down here at the bottom to add the documents to this information. Now, make sure you update these dates regularly when needed as required by your district's policy. Okay, and this is a view of what the SF 1430 looks like, and reference your district's policy for for the information that you need to have displayed on here. All right, this is the document package. This is the same as all of the other ones. This is the button that I was talking about before where the contractor hasn't submitted the document package for review. This Submit for Review button is what will show up if they haven't submitted it. So you'll click on that and it'll automatically come up with those two buttons, or you can notify the contractor, hey, you need to go in there and click this button. Your choice on that case. All right, Contractor Payrolls. So if you need to have Contractor Payrolls, you got to go to Contract Setup and check the lovely little box that says Track Contractor Payrolls in RMS. And then you can set which milestone will determine when to stop payrolls from generating. Now, payrolls are generated automatically by RMS based off of the first day on site set in the subcontractor or prime contractor modules, and by a contract administrator logging into contract mode and opening up the payrolls module. If anyone else goes into the payrolls module, nothing will be generated. So it must be done by a contractor in contractor mode with read-write permissions in the payroll module. So if you're not seeing anything in there, you'll need to contact someone from the contractor in order to get that information. Now, you can sort this view by the dates if you so desire, but we've already talked about filtering. And then you can edit it by double-clicking on it. Personally, I would just double-click. I wouldn't single-click and then click over here. I like to make things efficient, so the fewer movements I can do, the better. So once you've opened up the contractor payroll, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to go through and review all of the information that the contractor submitted, as well as any documents that they have added in the document package. After reviewing, you have two options, and commenting. You have two options. You can either reject the payroll, which will send it back to the contractor for them to fix, or you can accept the payroll, at which point it is no longer editable by either the contractor or the government. Labor interviews. So the labor interviews is where you're going to keep track of any interviews that you've done with the contractors, and you'll enter that information in here. Here is how you go through and add the labor interviews. So let me back up again. You're going to have, again, always the add, edit, and delete. It's always there. You'll click on add, and then once you get to the add button, you'll start entering this information here. Now, what is required to enter this information is going to be based on your district's policy, but you can go through and look at these ones for any information based off of each of the buttons or numbers. All right. So that comes to the end of this little section right here. I'm going to open this up for questions for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to give everybody a 5-minute break if you need to do any kind of go get some more water or take a restroom break or whatever you need to do. So first we'll start off with questions, then we'll take a quick break. Do we have?
There was one question, Jen, that went unanswered because the question did not have enough information for our SMEs on this side of the house to answer. and it was in reference to can an RFI be linked or referenced. So if the person that asked that question can provide a little bit more information, we can provide a better answer. Linked or referencing in regards to correspondence letters, or what was
this is Shari, and this is more a question because and I don't know if this happens on other projects, but for our project, when somebody when they send us a RFI and we answer the RFI, they close it, and then the contractor comes back and says, well, you didn't answer everything on the RFI, so we have to start another RFI. And I don't know if there's a way to make it so it's like, if it's RFI 10, you can do RFI 10.1. But right now we have, a bunch of RFIs that are kind of related, but their numbers are totally different. And it's hard to go back and track like, oh, that was back in RFI 25 and we're answering it. The rest of it, the part that the contractor is saying we didn't answer is in RFI 98. So then I was wondering if we have to do it that way, is there a way to link it in RMS? That's just my question.
There's not necessarily a way to link it, but you can change the RFI numbers somewhat. Here, let me bring down my, oh wow, that's big, my RMS really fast. So when you add, yes, I'm doing this on the government side instead of the contractor side, but it should be, I might be getting confused with the correspondence, so that's why I'm checking it. Okay, yeah, no. All right, so it's only the correspondence that will allow you to change the numbers, not the RFIs. And as of right now, there is no way to link an RFI to a previous RFI.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? No? Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break, do what you need to do, and we'll get started with the submittals once we get back. Wait, I see there were 2 more questions. Bonita, which questions
your
are you
screen
talking
may
about?
be slower. How to get an activity dashboard from contract menu?
How to get an activity to what?
How to get an activity dashboard from contract menu.
An activity dashboard. Whoever asked that question, can you elaborate just a little bit more?
Yeah, you had, when you first got into the contracts, into the contract, there was a activity menu that you had that showed like all activities, contractor activities, and government activities.
Oh, you're talking about these ones right here on my screen?
Oh, is that okay? Is that what those are? Yeah, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, no, these are the action items. There you go. Sorry. Yeah, those are the action items dashboard.
Okay. So all you do is click on one of those green boxes, and that will show you.
Correct. You can click on any one of these green boxes, and it will take you to the same view.
Okay.
Let's see here. Yeah. So if I click on this one, it's exactly the same view. It's just this one just shows you a brief estimate of what needs to be done.
Okay.
What was the other question?
I am looking for it. It scrolled away. Is there a way to link an RFI to a letter? You saw that one. Did you not? Is there a way to link an RFI to a letter? Passing that one on. Within the subcontractor module, the contractor manually enters the subcontractors, or they are imported into RMS from SDEF. They are
either. So for the contractor module, that information can be either manually entered, or if they're using an SDEF file, it can be done through the SDEF file. So the SDF file is convenient because it'll allow you to import features of work, subcontractors, pay activities, and a couple other various different things. It probably is easier for the contractor too to enter all of the information, but the hard part is getting it exported to the proper format to get the SDF to be imported into RMS. I do see another question here. It says, I understand Gov can create independent docs. Example was pre-con meeting minutes. Can the KTR create docs not attached to submittals, QC reports, etc., specifically KTR generated minutes? Now, I'm not sure if I fully understand the question, but if you're looking for like meeting minutes, the contractor does have the ability to add some documents to their three-phase inspection, I think in the QC daily reports, but they don't have access to the contract file module, so they can't just randomly upload any particular file that they want. Does that answer your question?
Well, basically, most contracts have, like, say, weekly meetings, and in those meetings there are minutes generated. And I don't know if there's a best practice for that, because some people will have them just through emails, and then others will have them attached through QC daily reports, but then the minutes are generally not created the same day as that QC report. So we've had issues with, okay, the meeting was on the 14th, but yet it's not attached to the QC report until like the 17th. And there's just not a way in the PCF where you can just go through, okay, this was this week's weekly minutes and so forth. And I just didn't know if there was a best practice to be, as opposed to going through like every daily QC report to see, did they attach the minutes on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday? Or
from the Corps of Engineers, PMO. So sometimes some districts with each district does things differently. So in your district, they may already have a standard practice to go by. So I would check with that first. But what you can do is have the contractor upload and name or date that meeting minute as a submittal. And that way you can scroll through the submittals based off of date, and you can see the title in there, and then you can find it a little bit quicker.
Okay, looks like we have another question. Did that answer your question for the documents?
somewhat, yeah.
Okay. All right, so here I see within the subcontractor module, the contractor manually enters the subcontractors, or are they imported into, it depends on how your contract is set up. If your contract is set up to use the SDF file, then more than likely it's from the SDF file. If it's not set up for an SDF file, then it's manually updated. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put a halt to this session of questions, and we will open it up for more questions at the end of this, but I do need to take a quick break, so I will be back in just a moment. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and keep going. Let me get my RMS out of the way. Minimize you. All right. Next, submittals. So we're going to start talking about the submittals. And let's see how we do. So for the submittals, you have 4 different modules that are in here. This is going to show you most of what you need to know for dealing with the submittals. Specification section. So the first one is going to be the specification section module. You're going to come in here. This is where you decide which specifications to use. We have some already pre-set up with 3 different master formats, 95, 2004, 2014, that you can choose from, or you can add your own specifically using the add button here. Now, either the government or the contractor can enter this information. So if the government wants to enter this information, great. If the contractor wants to enter this information, great. Check with your district's policy to see how that's going to be entered. Once you have the submittal, the specification section entered, then you can come into the submittal register and add all of the submittal registry information. Now, this is also where you can go to view the status of the registry items anyways. So If they've been completed, you'll see the status showing up over here as completed. Otherwise, it's going to show up as outstanding. And this will show the list of all of them. It will not show the individual submissions of the transmittal items. It will only show the actual items themselves that were entered in the first place. To enter a submittal item in the submittal registry, you click on the Add button, and to edit it, you're going to choose the Edit button. So this is off of the Add. So you'll pick the section that it is going to be associated with. Usually we leave these ones as default, don't really need to update all of that stuff. You select which activity it's required for. Now, this start date will show up as editable depending on how your contract is set up. If your contract is set up for allowing the activities to set the due dates for submittals, then you won't be able to edit this start date. That will come from the activities themselves, not from within here. However, if you don't have that checked in the contract setup module, then you can change the date here to enter that information. Now, this information needs to be added manually in order to know when this stuff will get taken care of. You can link it to, this can also be linked to a couple of other different things, which is the submittal types, and then who is going to be the primary government reviewer. All right, so moving on to actually processing a transmittal. This is going to be under the transmittal log. So when you're looking at the main contract menu and you've got the submittal screen, it's going to be the third one from the left or the second one from the right. And once you open that up, by default, it goes automatically to the transmittals in review section. Now, in order for you to review something, if the contractor has sent it to you, you first need to go over to this pending government receipts. And once you enter a date, that's this information down here. Once you enter this date, it will move from this pending government receipt into government review. And when it's in government review, then you can open it up, take a look at it. Again, we've got a document package view. So do I have, no, I don't have a view for opening up the transmittals. So basically, once you go through and review it, you're going to look at the submittal options. There are two places in which you can find the documents. Depending on your district's policy, it'll either show up in the attachments for the submittal item itself, or it'll show up down in the bottom document package where you can go through and review them. After you reviewed everything, you'll go into the main document package or whatever document package that you happen to be in, and you're going to accept the package or return it for corrections depending on what happens. Now, it looks like we didn't talk about how to sign any of that information, so questions? I feel like that's missing a couple of things, but it's okay. Any questions regarding the submittals? Basically, that's just a basic overview of going through the submittals. If you want more information on the transmittals, once we're fully complete, we can go through and see how much time we've got. We can go through a process and give you an example. Can you download 2 submittals at a time? Are you talking about the documents in the submittal package? Or are you talking specifically about the submittal item?
I think sometimes there's multiple. There's the submittal and then a cover sheet and or I don't know, other stuff. And then is there a way to download everything in that submittal at one time? Or if there's multiple things, you gotta do it one at a time.
So if there's, let me see if this one has any of that stuff in there too. This one has 2 things in here. Give it a second to open up. Are you talking about where, like this, where it's got 2 submittal items? Or are you talking about inside the submittal items?
I think she's talking about inside the document package for the submittal. All this, multiple submittals, and then there's multiple attachments within. Is it able to download all the stuff within that one submittal all at the same time?
So I believe the answer is indirectly yes. If you are in the document package, you can download everything that's in that document package at one time, but another place that you can go, let me go ahead and go back to the contract menu, go to import export. Let me bring my, come on, up, there you go. Document package export. So if you click on this document package export, you've got these options to download some of this stuff. Now, unfortunately, this is going to give you all of the submittals. So you won't be able to specify just this submittal or just that submittal. It'll give you everything. So as long as you have all of the packages for that particular submittal item in the bottom document package, that would be, scroll down, this one down here. That's the easiest place to have everything, because then once you do this, you can go ahead and, let me bring this down here.
Yeah, that's
export
the one.
select document.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, and you'll just choose this option and you'll be able to pick all of the documents that are in this document package.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see here, another question. If you don't accept package but approve submittal, will docs default to PCF through approval? No. So if you want the documents to go to PCF, you must click that accept package button. Otherwise, regardless of the setup of the submittal item itself, it's not going to go to PCF. All right. Is there any way to open transmittals and submittal item attachments in the submittal register? No, you have to do that directly in the, you have to do that in the transmittal log only. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on because the next section, we have 2 more sections to go through and not a whole lot of time. So if there's more time at the end, we can go through more of the questions. All right. Okay, QC/QA tab. So this is the information that we're going to go over here really fast. Let me go ahead and pop this over here. From the menu, you're going to go to QA/QC tab, and then these are all of the modules that you're going to be associated with that. We're going to really quickly just talk about all of them. Daily reports. This is probably going to be pretty important. This is the QA daily reports that we're specifically talking about. This is where the government is going to enter any reports that they need. Now, inside of the QA daily reports, you'll be able to see references to the QC daily reports. But this is what the module looks like when you first open it. You have these sort tiles here up at the top, which will allow you to see all of the QC reports, completed reports, or reports that are not completed at this time. Once you open up a daily report, it's going to come to this view right here. And these are the modules with inside. These are the sub-modules in there that you are allowed to enter information. You must enter the weather information, if nothing else. And then you have all of the other views that you can enter information. Labor interviews can be entered here. Mishap reporting, verifying your QC requirements, any follow-ups, QA tests, deficiencies, they'll all show up in here. Now, to get to this screen, if you don't have any QA reports open from the previous screen, you click on the add button, and you pick the date for which you want your daily report to be, and then you'll go through and edit it. And again, of course, you have a document package down here at the bottom. And this just goes over what I already talked about. More detail for all of these sections. You can review those at your leisure. And then what the QA report looks like prior to being signed. So at any point in time, if you want to know what your QA report looks like after entering some information, but it's not completely done, there's a button. Let me go back to that screen really fast. Right here that says QA daily report. So you can just pull this up to open it up, which is what is showing up right here. Okay. Now, once you are done with that, if you need to add any documents to the QA daily, you can add it in the document package. That is the same as any other document package. And then when you're done, again, you have to complete the package. And when you are completely done with the report, you check this box, report complete. Now, you do have to sign these daily reports. However, there is a lovely feature called multi-signing for the QA daily reports. So you don't necessarily have to go into the document package at this point in time and sign it. You can wait until you have a bunch ready, and then you can sign all of them at the same time. How you do it is dependent upon your district's policy. So check with your district's policy before you say, oh, I don't have to sign that document, because actually you might have to, so check. QC daily reports. These are all going to be entered by the contractor, and if you wish to go in and view them, because you are going to have to take a look and see what the contractor has done and sent, You've again got these sort options that go across the top. However, we've got this view in contractor mode because these are the items that are showing up in gold. Now, what you see is going to be the same as what the contractor sees. The only difference is you're not going to be able to edit them like you edit the QA reports. QA QC summary. So you can get a brief view of all of the QA information, all of the deficiencies, the tests, and things like that. It'll all show up in here. All of these gray boxes are sort tiles, which will allow you to display the information down here. You just click on the tile, the information will show up down here. And anytime you want to look at the various different ones, just choose a different box to show all that information. Weather delays. Weather delays are pretty important. Every month at the beginning of the following month, then a weather delay will show up in here, and you'll open it up and it'll show you the following screen, the month. And in here in the days, you will see the little information about the QA reports and the QC reports all showing up in here based off of the weather on those reports. Now, occasionally it happens that some reports are not in agreement. It'll show up in here and you can edit it in this module. Definable features of work. So this can be added by either the government or the contractor. It's up to your district's policy who is going to be adding this information, probably the contractor, but you can come in here and take a look at it. If you want to look at anything that's in here, you can double click on it. And as you can see, they can set up the days for when the meetings go through after. Three-phase inspection. Now, this information is only going to populate after the features of work have been filled out. So if you don't see anything in there, it needs to come back over here and click on Add. And then it will show up in here. Now, once it shows up in here, you can open this stuff up and, oops, I guess it didn't show up on there. You can open this stuff up and set these days and times in this module. Now, the dates and the times actually have to be set in the QC daily report, not in here. This is just going to show you which checks that are going to be done. This is where you set up the checks that are going to be done. But the contractor is responsible for going in and adding those dates in their QC daily report. AHAs, activity hazard analysis. Unfortunately, hazards happen, so you need to make sure that there is some kind of analysis, and this is the module that you will use in order to add that information. So I see you'll have some edit views that you'll go through and add the information. Now there is a legacy tab, but for the most part, you'll want to use the original tab and add everything at that point. QC requirements. So there are a couple of different types of QC requirements, and the sort tiles up at the top will allow you to see them. One thing to note about here, if you need to set that a test has been done, when it's been done, if it's complete, that kind of stuff, you must first click on this sort tile or you're not going to see the column that you want to see in order to add that information. So most of this stuff should be done in the daily reports, not necessarily in here. It can be. But just so you know, if you're trying to set, oh, this was done, it's waiting results, you need to click on this button in order to be able to do that. Otherwise, you can add, edit, and delete just like anything else. And then down here at the bottom, there's always some kind of brief summary. If you single click on it, it'll show you the brief information regarding that particular item. Equipment checks. If your contract is set up, well, if your contractor is going to be using some pretty big equipment that requires maintenance, you can add, or the contractor, more than likely, is going to add that information in here. Now, to be able to do dredging, these must be, well, no, it's not with dredging. If they want to add the information to the QC daily reports, it must be done here in the equipment checks. They have to add it here first, make sure they set up all the information correctly, and then they can deal with that one. So as you can see, this is going through showing you the add, edit, and when you add, this is the first screen that you see. The edit view, this is what you see, and then this one is the exposure reports from an actual QC daily. Oh, sorry, is this QC daily or QA report number? I'm not sure, but you'll be able to see this in both the QC and the, yeah, it's the QC. This will be in the QC daily report. Alrighty then, exposure hours. So the exposure hours are entered in by the contractor in the QC daily reports at the end of the month on the first of the following month. the exposure hours report will show up in here. And once the exposure hour shows up, you will double click on the month in question, and this information will show up in here in the contractor. Once they have entered the information and submitted to the government, y'all will go through and you'll review it. And if everything looks good, then you will check the box that says hours accepted. Now, when it comes to you, the checkbox is going to show up as in review, and then you have to choose either hours accepted or not accepted, and then it goes back to the contractor at that point in time. QA test. The QA test can be entered inside of the QA reports, and basically it's just to confirm that the QC tests were accurate. All right, required verifications. So there are certain QC requirements that don't necessarily need verification. This is the module where you'll go through and you'll set that up. You'll be like, okay, this one needs a test, or this one needs a verification, this one needs a verification. You'll set all that information up in here. Planned interviews. So if you are going to have interviews with the contractors or the subcontractors, you can indicate how many for each of the individual ones showing up in here. Based off of your district's policy, you'll fill this out as needed. Refreshing daily reports. This one, you're probably not going to use this one too terribly often, but there might be a time where you'll need to reset the daily reports themselves that have been completed already, and you'll do that by checking one of these two, whether it's the QC report or the QA report. You'll pick that one and do that if you need it, but more than likely you're not necessarily going to use it. All right, any questions regarding the QA/QC tab?
There were a couple of questions that didn't get answered. QA reports and what the specific narrative types were. Eric answered that one. And then the QA report, got it, regarding submittals. If there are multiple submittals with attachments, do we have to go through each attachment and accept into PCF?
Yes. Yes. So if there are multiple attachments, so if they put it in the attachment section and not in the document, and there's more than one, then yes, if you want those documents, all of those documents to go, and they're in multiple document packages, you will need to accept all of those document packages. Let's see here, checking this anyone. All right, looks like we're up to date on the questions. What is the most efficient way to upload photos? You're talking about to any general document package, is that correct?
Yeah, we've been having issues. We got the new phones, and the only way we've been able to upload photos is through email. And since the files are large, we can only do like 4 or 5 at a time. So I mean, when you're taking 30 photos, on site, it takes forever to download photos that way. So I didn't know if you had a better way, better suggestion.
The only thing that I would say, and this is dependent upon your phone, whether or not it's set up to be able to do this, would be to send it through like DoD Safe, so that way you can send all of it at one time to yourself so you can get it on your computer and then upload it to RMS. But other than that, I do not know of any other way that you can upload those other than sending it through email.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let me take a quick drink and then we'll move on to the progress payments. All right, progress payments. Okay, so for this one, we're not going to go into too much detail for this training. There'll probably be more information. I don't think probably. There is going to be more information on the progress payments in the advanced training. So for this one, this is just a basic overview. And if this doesn't answer your questions, if you have some like really specific detailed questions, hang on to those and wait until tomorrow, because more than likely some of that information will be gone over there. Also, I am not the expert in the progress payments, so I may not know the specific answers, but tomorrow we'll have someone on board who will be able to answer some of the more in-depth, more specific questions. feel free to ask them, and I'll let you know if you need to show up tomorrow for answers to those particular questions. All right, here's a basic overview for the progress payments. Basically, the government and the contract, they get together, you guys get together, and you decide, okay, this is how much work has been done, this is how much you can request on this particular progress payment. The contractor will then go in, enter all of that information into RMS, send it over to the government. The government will review it and say yay or nay, and then process the payment and either return it or send it off to CEFMS. All right, so the first thing that's probably the most important is the contractor pay request worksheet. I'm going to ignore that for right now because I want to actually show you. To get to the contractor pay request worksheet, you go to the contract reports tab and then use the search box. You can either search for contractor pay request worksheet or any one of those words or any combination of those words and find it in here. And again, remember, use this lovely little arrow to expand it so that way you can actually see it. Now, the report itself is going to look something like this. It's going to have a lot of information that's showing up in this particular area associated with a specific activity. So if you have features of work, submittal items, and things like that associated with the activity, that information will show up in here. And then you can add whatever percentage is allowed after you guys have that meeting and discuss, okay, this is the information I need to do, this is how much I'm going to allow you to request, that kind of thing. Now, whether or not you guys have a meeting with the contractor prior to them actually submitting is up to your district's policy, but that's one possible way of doing that. Now, to get to the progress payments, you're going to go to the Finances tab, and then you're going to run down to this Progress Payments module, and that will open up the Progress Payments list view. And in the data grid, it will show you all of the progress payments that have already been submitted. Now, what you will notice is they will show in progress if the contractor has created the invoice for the first time or the progress payment in contractor mode, it will show up. Now, you might not be able to get to it until after the contractor actually submits it to the government, but you will see that they're working on it because you'll see all of these in processes showing up. When you double click on it, that's when you'll find out if the contractor is currently still working on it or if it's ready for you to go through and take care of that. Okay, so there's some red stuff. I'm actually going to read this one because this is probably going to be important. Contractor may contact you and inform you that they can't process a pay request because of an error messages. Finances are not properly balanced. Contractor can fix the variance in RMS 3.0, but must make the correction in NAS as well. Something to keep in mind with this one. The contractor can't make any changes to the CLIN. Only the government can make changes to the CLIN. So if a contractor's pay activity is not balanced, that information depends on what the problem is as to whether or not it needs to be corrected by the contractor or by the government. So that will be more discussed tomorrow in tomorrow's training. So if you want more information on that, join us tomorrow and we'll talk about that. All right, so once you're in the progress payment, when you need to go in and process it, you can double click on it to make your life easier or single click and click on this edit button. What you will notice down here is this will show a brief overview of the current status of the particular invoice that you have selected. So if you select one of these top ones, it will tell you whether or not something has been sent and where the status is and when it was done down in this box right here. First tab that you see when you come into the invoice is the Invoice tab. This is where you set all of the dates. Now, some of these dates will already be preset for you, but the contract, let's see, the invoice receive date, you will need to set that. And I believe you will also need to set the, I think it's the pay period from, I can't remember off the top of my head. You have these buttons over here, which will allow you to make some changes to some of the information. You can change the payment priority. You can look at the payment terms. You cannot change the payment terms as everything for that is set up in CEFMS. So if you want changes, you got to go to CEFMS for those changes. But you can do them by looking at this. You don't have to go to the contract setup to take a look at this one. Or if there's something wrong with it, then you can return for corrections. Now, the next important part is this payee office. And give me just a second. I feel like I ate some peanut butter. Goodness. All right, this payee office. You will not be able to process this payment unless this information has been entered and this box has been checked. Now, this information, again, comes from CEFMS. So when you click on the blue box here to pull up the address to send the information to the contractor and no address shows up, you need to go to CEFMS to find out why the information is not entered, to make sure it's entered correctly. So keep that in mind. All right, so this is talking about what I already talked about, and there are some common errors for you to notice over here. I'll let you review that at your leisure. And then the priority payment, usually most of the time you don't need this at the priority payments, especially if you have pre-planned payment of obligations is selected for your funding choices. So more than likely you're not going to make any changes in here. That's only for more advanced funding options. Again, the payment terms, we talked about that. And then processing the pay, the next tab that's in the invoice is going to be the requested activity earnings tab. This is the information that the contractor sends to you. You can't edit it, you can only look at it, but you do have sort tiles up here to go through and view them. Now, the first option that you have for editing is the allowed activity earnings tab. Now, the only thing that will be open for you to edit are these 3 columns right here. And they will only be open to edit as long as you haven't checked the box on the additional earnings tab, and I'll show you that in a minute. And again, you have the same sort tiles as from before. You can view all of the activities, only the activities that have been fully paid or only the ones that are being requested on this particular invoice. Now, this, whether or not you use this tab is based off of your district's policy, but this tab can be used if the contractor has asked for 10% of a particular activity and you're like, hey, you've only done like 5%. I'm not going to pay you for 10%. It's 5%. I'm going to drop this to 5%. And that will change that. Or in that case, if you have a discrepancy, more than likely, you probably should return it for corrections, honestly, and talk to the contractor. Be like, no, you've only done 5%. I'm only going to pay you for 5%. Fix it. That kind of a thing. Okay, subcontractor earnings. Again, this is just for your information and your view. This is where the contractor is going to add all of the amounts that are going to go to each of the different subcontractors. And if there are any deductions from those subcontractors because they didn't finish one way or the other. Now, please note that even though they are being deducted from the subcontractor, the government hangs on to that money. They don't give it to the contractor until after it's been fully done. So it's not that the contractor is withholding that information, it's the government is going to be withholding that information. All right, the allowed CLIN earnings. This is for reference, so that way you can take a look at the CLINs that are linked with all of the activities and how much money they are. Now, keep in mind, these CLINs are not the same as what's in CEFMS unless you set them up the same as what's in CEFMS. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at this tab. The additional earnings tab is the next important tab that you're going to be looking at. The additional earnings section right here is only going to be available if you get that set up. The only time that this needs to be available is if you're going to allow the contractor to bill for stuff that doesn't have a pay activity. Check with your district's policy as to how to handle that particular case. Now, once you are finished with doing all of the other tabs look good, then the next thing that you need to do is decide what type of calculation to use and check your box. Now, most of the time it's going to be a standard calculation. There have been some cases where you need to use periodic. So let me show you the next screen. Ta-da! Wait. In order to get to that screen, you click on this box right here, this ellipses box that will only show when this checkbox is not checked. So uncheck that box, check this one, and it will bring you to this screen right here, which will allow you to change it from standard calculation to periodic calculation. Now, the biggest difference between these ones is the periodic calculation is only going to base calculations based off of this invoice only. That's it. Whereas the standard calculation will take into consideration all the other invoices plus this one. And more about that. You can always come back to this one and read all that other information for yourself at your leisure, so that way you can understand that. And if you have questions tomorrow, ask them then, because that one I don't understand. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I'll use this one. Okay, good. That is very complicated, and I don't get that one. Anyhow, so once everything is done, you've chosen the correct excuse me. you've chosen the correct calculation. Then you check this box right here for total allowed earnings for the pay period have been entered. And then you can move on to the Obligations tab. Now, you cannot go to the Obligations tab until that checkbox is done. Once that checkbox is done, then you'll be able to come over here, and based off of the calculation chosen, the money will be distributed off of the obligation line items found from CEFMS onto this screen right here. Now, all of the obligation line items from here come from CEFMS. So it's not linked to the CLINs inside of RMS. It's only the obligations from CEFMS that show up in here. If there are any error messages, they will show up down here. Any variances will show up down here. And if you select the specific obligation, you can see the details for that particular obligation showing up in this section right here. Now, once you have verified that everything is good, you have no errors, you check this box for the ENG 93 complete. And at this point, you can run over to the Document Package tab, which will show this one right here. And then you can go through and you can review the contractor's prompt pay report, which will show up in the contractor document package. You can also view the ENG 93, which will be in the government document package. Also in the government document package is going to be the calculations button. Sorry, not button. The calculations report. So if you have the standard calculations and you want to know what's going on, you can look at that calculations to see why it shows where to put what kind of information. And that shows up in this document package. Opening up the government document package, you'll see the ENG 93 report and see there's the payment calculations report that's underneath. But you need to assign the ENG 93. So I would suggest opening it up and viewing it, making sure everything is in the right place, everything agrees like it's supposed to, and then when it's done, you can go ahead and sign the selected document and go through the signing process. Once that's complete, again, you have to click on the Complete Package button, and then you will need to, yeah, it's talking about signing it. Ooh. Oh. And then you have a couple of different positions. You've got the ENG 93 preparer and the ENG approved core signature locations. And check with your district's policy who's supposed to be signing under which of those particular digital signature positions. Once that is done, here's your complete button. We talked about that one. Then you're going to see that this is accepted, but the contractor one is not complete. So you're going to have to go into the contractor document package and accept that one if you want the documents to send to PCF. Once that's done, you can go back to the Obligations tab and click on the Send Payment to CEFMS. This is your last step. So once you send payment to CEFMS, you should be pretty good to go. Something that you'll want to know is we have this little button up here that has all of the reports that you can view at the particular time that you click on the report. So if you click on this button, it'll bring down this drop down and you can open up these particular reports and it will show you the snapshot view of what it looks like at this time. It's not going to show you any signatures that may have been added in the document package, but it will show you the document as it stands in RMS at that point when you click on that. Okay, so before I go into that one, also one thing to note, if you have sent an invoice to CEFMS and you notice at the very beginning where the list of all of the invoices show up, down at the bottom there's this thing where it's saying something about sent to CEFMS, but it's not actually sent to CEFMS. Come inside, there's a button that will show up here that says CEFMS errors. If you have that, then you'll need to contact CEFMS support most likely to find out what's going on. But if you're not 100% sure, you can always submit a ticket to us. We'll take a look at it and let you know that, oh, that needs to be this, or, no, you need to contact CEFMS support. So just let us know for that one. All right, so this is a view of the prompt pay report. You can look at that at your leisure. The ENG 93. This you can look at your leisure as well, page 1, page 2, page 3, and then the contract file report, and then the check. So this is just a check to see how everything is looking at the time. All right, questions regarding this section? All right, let me go through and take a look and see if we missed any questions. Doesn't look like we did. So All right, so at this point in time, I'm going to open up the floor for any questions that you might actually have. If you would like to see a live demo of something, please let me know. But before I do that, hold on, I have one more thing. At the very end of the slide, there's a link of a whole bunch of different resources that you can use, YouTube videos, to assist you with doing various different things that would probably be helpful to you for using RMS. So, are there any questions, or is there anything that you would like to see as a live demo? Someone is asking to be added to the distro list. What are some of the biggest changes in 3.0? Are you talking about the biggest changes from 2.3.8 to 3.0? Robert, can you clarify your question? I do apologize.
You said yes.
Oh, I must have missed it. I do apologize. I'm not that familiar with 2.3.8. I've looked at it a couple of times, so I'm not 100% sure what the biggest differences are. Eric or Michael Cervantes, do either of you know? While we're waiting for that.
You don't have to have a contractor upload, and then you download the or download their updates, and or vice versa. So it's pretty much seamless when you can get that information, which is the biggest probably perk of going to, well, we are all on 3.0, 2.3.8 is offline. So that is one of the biggest differences. And also for that, I mean, that's really one of the biggest differences, and actually makes work go a lot quicker with the 3.0 versus the other one. But
okay, let's see here. If someone asked where the slides are, they can be found on our website. There's a couple of different places. You can go to the links are being posted in the chat as well. All right, let me see. Are there any other questions? Live for training.
I had one, I think it might have been passed over, but there are usually two places that I will find documents in submittals from the contractor. And I just want to make sure that the correct one is being used. That will actually populate PCF when it's down, like if you can go to the submittal screen.
This one here?
Not the register.
No, this is the, hold on, let me try and get this so we can actually see the whole thing. This is the transmittal log. So this is in a transmittal that has not been accepted by, or has not been acknowledged by the contractor. So I can't edit anything in here. But this,
so sometimes there'll be attachments up there, and other times they will have down at the bottom where you have down there. So sometimes the contractor will put attachments up there, and sometimes they'll be down at the bottom.
So both of them will work. You'll just need to make sure that you accept both of the document packages to get them to send to PCF.
And is there a reason why there are two different places?
I think that was a request for a feature enhancement to have the option to add it in two different places. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
I can add to that. So sometimes you have documents that apply to the entire transmittal. If you have multiple items, it may be related to all those items. So you would put it on the transmittal. If it's specific to an item, you can put it on the item.
Thank you, Eric. So I'm seeing another question here. What are the most common errors made to look out for? So probably the biggest error that you're going to want to pay attention to is if you have an SDEF, if you're uploading an SDEF file for your contract, and to prevent duplicates either in the subcontractors or contractor payrolls or pay activities, to prevent deletion of pay activities, it's very important that the contractor makes sure that the activity ID matches exactly what's in RMS in their scheduling software, and that the responsibility code for the subcontractors match exactly. Same thing for the features of work, as well as, what's the other one? Can't remember what the other one is. But basically, anytime you're uploading an SDEF file, verify that there's no duplicates, there's no overwriting, and that kind of stuff. Or make sure the contractor verifies that information, so that way when it actually does get imported, it doesn't cause duplicates or delete information that it should not have been deleted. Another common issue related to this probably is the negative payments. So if you have, let me get this out of the way. So if your contractor has submitted an invoice, or they're trying to submit an invoice, and they get negative numbers inside of the progress payments, most likely the reason for those negative numbers is the SF file, what I was just talking about. Their activity ID was changed, but the description stays the same. And when they import it in, it's different activity ID, but on the previous progress payment, it was the old activity ID. So now RMS is going, wait a minute, this activity doesn't exist anymore. I need to take that money away. No, you can't get paid for that. It's gone. So you got to pay them back. That one's a typical one that goes through. Launcher issues are probably the next ones that are, am I really on mute? I hope not.
No,
Can
you're
everybody
not.
still hear me? Okay,
Yes.
good. I apologize. Weird little glitch on my computer again. Another thing, like with launcher issues, I believe that one was back on, let me exit this so that way I can actually go to that really quickly. Because this is a lot. All the way up at the top, please. This one. And then present. Why it does that? There we go. All right. So a lot of the times, most of the users will run into, they'll try to log into RMS and they'll get this error message disconnected. That one's a pretty big one. A lot of it has to do with when you open up RMS and then you tell it to pin to the taskbar, what you're not realizing is it's pending the client version of RMS. It's not pending the launcher. So every time you open it, it's not checking for updates. You have to make sure that the launcher is pointing to the correct location in order to get it to update correctly when you open it. So my advice to you, if you're going to be doing some of that stuff, is that when you open up RMS, let me see if I've got my RMS around here. So this is my shortcut for my RMS launcher. If you want to grab this guy and drag it down to add it to the taskbar to create a shortcut, that's probably a more effective way of doing it. Otherwise, you can submit a support ticket and we can tell you what it needs to be, or you can just right click on what's on the desktop, choose properties, and then just copy this information to your properties for this one. Now, to get to the properties, you right click on it and then you right click again, and then you can get to properties from here. And you just verify, it's on the wrong screen, that these two bits of information are exactly the same. And as long as they're the same, you should be good to go. So if that's the same, then the other issue that it could be would just be that it's probably going to do that again. Yeah, the other issue could be just that you haven't logged in a very, very long time for one reason or another, and it hasn't checked for updates, and you're so far behind that RMS has been, that the particular level that you're on is no longer able to get to the server, in which case you can try both of these particular ones in order to go through. Let's see here. Let me see if it'll let me do this. There we go. So let's see, I see another question in here. The RMS latest version. I'm using RMS patch 336.
Jennifer and Cervantes. I'm going to say this out loud to make sure I'm not misleading anyone, but I do know that there was a time I tried to download an RMS patch, and it sat there, and it sat there, and it sat there, and I went and read War and Peace, and it was sitting there. But what I found out is when I shut it down, went to the folder where the information was supposed to be downloading, it was our 336 did get indeed downloaded. And so when I restarted, it restarted okay. For whatever reason, something was going crazy with the patch download. Maybe a lot of people were hitting the server and the patch download choked. It didn't give me the message that it finished. And I believe that might be address Milt's question. But I think 336 is the latest in production, is it not?
Yes, it is. 336 is currently the latest in production. If you ever want to know what is the current in production, there's a couple of different things that you can do. So I'm going to show you a couple things here really fast. In the district, you will see the patch level that shows up down here. And then if you go to our website, let me open up another one and bring this down here. It'll let me behave itself. You can compare that number to our release notes. So give it just a second to load the website because my internet is slow while I am sharing screen. Let's go down to this area right here where the release notes are. So when you open up the release notes, it'll show you over here which patch is currently the most current version that's in RMS. So as long as this number matches what you've got right here, you're good to go. Now, if you can't log in and you can't get to this point, then what you're looking at is, let's see, oh wait, I have this view over here. Let me get back to it. These ones? No. These ones. Okay. On the next page. Right here, you can go to this section right down here and you can see, yeah, okay. You can see it says patch level, in this case, is 328. Oh, I think I need glasses. I apologize. So if this were the case where somebody was trying to get into RMS and they keep getting that disconnected error and they notice that they're on 328 and we're currently on 336, more than likely they haven't updated to the most recent patch. Now, there have been times for some users, unfortunately, who just are never able to get the patch to download properly. When that happens, just put in a support ticket with RMS and we will send it to you with instructions on how to get it onto your computer directly. So that way you don't have to worry about the system working because you've tried it like 3 or 4 different times and it just refuses to download everything.
Hey, Jennifer, will you go back to the main website page? I wanted to show the middle page where the documentation and videos will be loaded once everything's updated. Just back a page, yeah.
Back up.
Thank you.
You want to go to documentation website page?
Scroll down. So the immediate link, right, scrolling up. Scroll, there you go. The slides for the beginner's training is there.
Yeah.
There it is.
So this is for training, and then the advanced trainers will show up here.
And then if you scroll down a little bit, the videos that we tape and post are in that section as well.
Oh, that's the chat. Oh, here are the videos.
Yes.
So anytime you want to see any of the videos on this link, it's going to take you to our YouTube channel for the list of all of the webinars. So right now, currently these are the ones that we have for your perusal, and you can view these at any point in time. Now keep in mind, these are usually about an hour and a half or longer, depending on what kind of setting it is. And then if there's any chats that have been uploaded, they'll show up down here. All right, are there any other questions? I'm trying to look and see if I missed anything in the chat. Can you distribute the links? Are you talking about these links that are down here? So you mean send them out in an email? They're available for anybody to go through, and if you want, you can copy them and send them. But I'm not sure I understand what you mean by distribute the links.
I was just seeing if you had those on the slides. You know, if you would scroll up just a little bit. Yeah, those links there.
Ah, right, yeah, let me go ahead and post them in here.
Right. Thank you very much.
Going to be Olson. You are welcome. Paste. Send. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. Michael did remind me that the title bar for RMS also shows the patch number. So when you have RMS open, let me bring my RMS down, it'll show the patch level right up here in the upper right hand. But sorry, that's left. I do know my right from my left, I promise. Let's see, any other questions? Oh, it didn't copy the links? How rude. Okay, let me try that again. All right, so let's copy link. Let's see, let's do the beginner one because this is the one we're actually working on. Copy link and paste. There we go. So that's the link for the beginners. And for tomorrow's training, for your reference, copy link and paste. Tomorrow's training. Okay. Let's see, are there any other questions or anything else you wish to see before we conclude?
Carrie, did you have any closing remarks?
Yeah, I'll just say I put in the chat a couple of times some of the links to the RMS website, the help desk, the Construction Community of Practice website, as well as the PMO's SharePoint site. We do post things on the SharePoint for training notices, as well as just updated the district admin list. That's also posted up there. As soon as headquarters finishes updating the CCB lead list, I'll update that and put it out there. But there's also an area for folks to upload their own documents if they would like to. If they have a user manual that they've created for their district that they think might be helpful to others, they can upload that out there as well. This training was recorded. It's actually still recording, so we will get that posted within the next few days onto the RMS website. And I just appreciate everybody's time. I'll remind you there is another session tomorrow, same time, same place. It's for more advanced level users, but we invite anybody to join that would like to participate. It will also be recorded and posted as well. So again, I appreciate your time, and Benita, I'll turn it back over to you for anything else that y'all have. It looks like Elizabeth Olson has her hand raised. Go ahead.
No, I just put something in. Maybe I hit the wrong button. I just said thank you, and I appreciate your resource.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. Well, Benita, if y'all don't have anything else, I don't have anything else. I will. I'll end the session. Thank y'all. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.